folks, I've got a good one for you today, if I can make it work. I'm one of those people that can't do much with computer technology. I don't understand it, don't know what all these words mean. And what I'm trying to do is put photographs into my video. And I can read all the instructions I want to, but it doesn't work for me. I just have to figure it out for myself. Now, the reason I'm doing this is I've often spoken about a contest I won one time, and I want to explain that to you before I show you the photographs. It was a long time ago, and in fact, I might as well tell you when it was 1994, that I won a decorating contest with the Country Accents magazine. Now, I was living in a small town in Tennessee, and who would expect somebody from Tennessee in a small town to win a big national magazine contest? No, I did it because it was fun, kept me busy, and I enjoyed doing these things because it meant I got to do a little decorating of my own. And I lived in an old house. The house was built, I guess, 1920, and I was renting. It had 10-foot ceilings in one room. It had 8-foot ceilings in the bathroom. You could almost reach up and touch it. And the window was over the sink. Now, whoever thought of putting a window over a bathroom sink? You have to turn around to the other wall to see yourself in the mirror. It had several quaint personalities, I should say. Even a back porch had been turned into a breakfast room. Now that I like. I really like. Has black and white check floors. You know, everybody likes those. Gives it the country look. So, I entered this contest from a magazine. I should have pulled it out. In fact, I think I will. You just stay right there. Well, would you believe I didn't find the right magazine? But I'll show you some pictures from the magazine in a few minutes. The contest was the decorating of one room. You didn't have to have a before and after. You just had to send in 2 copies of photograph to show the room and describe it a little bit. So that's what I did. I spent 2 months working on the kitchen, and finally sent the application in to the magazine. Well, the day came that the magazine contest was ended, and checked the mail. Nothing. Well, what did I expect? I was doing it for fun anyway. I didn't expect to win a national contest. So it was 3 days later. The editor of Country Accents magazine called and said, "You won the contest." What did I win? Oh my gosh, you don't know what you won? Well, not really. I didn't pay that much attention to what the prize was. That's when she said, "You've won round trip for 2 on the Queen Elizabeth II." That's a big ship, in case some of you don't know what it is. Big at the time, it was the biggest ship in the world. And it's 10-day round trip to England. My gosh, I'd never even been on a fishing boat. How in the world was I going to ride on a big ship? Well, I kept referring to it as a boat, and everybody kept saying, "Pat, The Queen Elizabeth II is not a boat, it's a ship. It holds about 2,500 passengers. In fact, it's as long as a football field. Now, y'all know how long football fields are, and if you've ever walked the length of one, you'll definitely remember how long the football field was. Okay. Things take place. I end up in England. But before I went, photographer and stylist came and took pictures of my house. Now, my sister went with me, and they also took pictures of her house. So we were going to be featured in a future Country Accent magazine. Okay, now I want to show you, and this is my way of getting the photographs into the video, so just bear with me. I've got two iPads here. One I'm feeding to you, and the other one I've got the pictures on. So I'm going to do, oh heck, wait just a minute, we'll get back here. I'm going to do a slideshow for you. And you just look at the pictures. And these are pictures that were in the magazine. Look backwards, doesn't it? Yeah, sure does. But you can still see what it looked like. That was my breakfast room. See the black and white floor? And big sow belly cabinet. That's my bedroom. The stylist stacked up my hat boxes, and that's my quilt on the bed that I made. This is my living room. That's a quilt top I was working on called a Triple Irish Chain. And you see all my doodads and things pillows I've made. That's the old kitchen. You can tell it's an old kitchen, but I loved it. Everything about it, the sink and all. There's my Hoosier cabinet. It's got several pieces of my jadeite displayed. And see the little towels on the wall? My daughter made those when she was 8 years old. This is my sow belly cabinet. It's all filled with my Fiesta ware. And the stylist took care of that. This is a corner table. And the display on it is Old Spice for women. It's a set that for Christmas. This is just another table that the stylist put together and made it look very pretty, very pretty. Keep going. Now that's a few pieces of my Occupied Japan tomato pattern. I picked up one piece at a time, and I embroidered the picture above it. That happened to be me on my front porch. And I've got a story about that big long rug that you see on the floor, 13.5 feet long. And one day I'll tell you about it. This is the Country Accent magazine cover, and that's my breakfast room on the front cover. That shocked the living daylights out of me when I went to the store and saw that magazine. Here's the Queen Elizabeth II. Does it look long? Well, it is long. And that's the ship I sailed on to and from England. These are just extra pictures that you don't need to see the rest of them. So I'll continue with my story. Okay. I actually ended up in England 4 times, never dreaming I would ever leave the shores of the United States, ever in my lifetime. The cruise over was just wonderful. Each trip had something exciting about it. One trip I got to go through Buckingham Palace. Oh my gosh, you don't know what that's like. And then we left by the back door. That's the backyard where the children play. Big indoor swimming pool, and there was a gift shop that we got to go through, and then we left by way of another street. I hardly know where to start with my stories about England. I took a 9-day land tour. It was called, I forgot how it was, The Best of Britain or something like that. And I met fabulous people, fabulous. Got back on the ship 9 days later, make a return home, and Robert Stack and his wife were on the ship. I got to meet both of them. That was exciting. He was a handsome man and a very good storyteller. In fact, on one of my trips with my friend, I met a lady on the first trip. She and her husband, they had sailed before, and they were kind of tour guides for my sister and me. And they kept us comfortable because we didn't know where to go, what to do, how to get it done, but they did. And we became very good friends immediately. We corresponded after we got back home, and it was 2.5 years later that her husband died, and she and I continued traveling together. It was her that I went to England with 3 more times. Now, she was one of those people that she had to go to the Broadway shows. If she was in New York, she went to Broadway shows wherever they were. I was the movie buff. I'd been to movies growing up. Every weekend I would go to a movie and see all the good musicals and what have you. So we would schedule Broadway shows in London. We, on one of the trips, we wanted to see My Fair Lady. We got in that theater. Those ceilings are so high that you almost need binoculars to see the ceiling. And we're center front, the front row of the theater. There we were. We could actually put our feet up on the railing around the orchestra pit. Well, we're sitting there, and the play begins, and you know how the movie of My Fair Lady was with at Covent Gardens, where Eliza Doolittle was selling her flowers, and Professor Higgins appears. Well, Professor Higgins in the play moves toward the front of the stage, very close to where we were sitting, and I looked up and I said, "Oh my gosh, that's Anthony Andrews." My friend said, "Who's Anthony Andrews?" I said, "You don't know who Anthony Andrews is." I said, "He played with Jane Seymour in The Scarlet Pimpernel, and I just fell in love with him in that movie." That's Anthony Andrews as Professor Higgins. Well, my heart was just pumping. The week ended. We'd done several things, gone to Cambridge. We'd get on the bus, we'd get on the train, and she was really good at her research. I could just hang on to her and we'd end up anywhere. And we're on the ship going back to the United States, and our table was for 6 people. One couple in our table was from London, and when my friend started describing the shows we saw while we were in London, she mentioned My Fair Lady. Well, I noticed that the other lady raised her eyebrow when she said My Fair Lady, and I looked at her and I said, "Does My Fair Lady have some significance about it that you recognize?" And she said, "Well, as a matter of fact, it does. My daughter played Eliza Doolittle in My Fair Lady." We were just dumbfounded. We could not believe that. So we had a very enjoyable time on the ship, discussing her daughter and her acting career. In fact, her husband told me that Paul Newman had been to see the play, and when the play was over, he asked to go backstage to meet the actress who played Eliza Doolittle, and he told her that she was the most beautiful singer he had ever seen. Well, my goodness, what would you say to that? Especially if it's Paul Newman telling you that. And she ended up with the award, just like our Academy Award. They have their awards too, and she won first place in that. Well, I was just on cloud nine. Friday night, it's time to get packed, get ready to get off the ship early the next morning. I'm walking down the corridor with this young actress's father, and he says, are you going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to see the skyline as we go into New York Harbor? And I looked at him and I said, I'm not getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning for anything unless Paul Newman's knocking on my door. And of course, he just laughed at that. But it was just another exciting adventure. I met musicians from London, designers from London, and there were others that I just can't think of right now. But one of the nice things about traveling in England was the people were so nice. They were so helpful. We carried a map. We were always pulling out that big map and trying to figure what street we were on, and we were standing on a corner and on our way to the theater. We hadn't found it yet, and had a map out, and a gentleman stepped up and he said, what are you looking for? And we said, the Royal Theater. And he said, right down there at the end of the corner, turn left, and there's a big blue building. That's it. So that's the way the people in London treated us. We were also there the week they had the blackout. The blackout, that's the underground, the train, a strike. In other words, 3-day strike. You couldn't take the train, and we took the train everywhere we went. You tried to get on the bus, and the line was so long of people getting on the bus after a few got off, you never make it by bus. So we were headed to the theater again. We knew we weren't going to get on a bus. We were not going to make it to the theater in time. So we started walking and looking for taxis. She's going one way, I'm going another. We would hail down any taxi came along, and I spotted one pulling up to the curb, and a lady was getting out, and I ran over, and I said, is this taxi available? He said, yes. I said, hold it right there. I scrambled around and yelled for my friend. I said, we've got a taxi, come on. So she came over. Well, it was a long drive to that theater, and we said, can you get us there by 7 o'clock? He said, I'll do my level best to. And I'm telling you, that taxi ride from our hotel at Hyde Park to the theater cost us $50, but it was worth it. It was either pay $50 for taxi or lose your money on your ticket that you've already bought for the theater. I could tell you some other stories. I've already told one that I videoed, and you'll get to see it later. funny things that happen on these trips. And anyway, I just wanted to tell you about the contest I won. A contest that actually, you might say, it changed my life. I'd never been anywhere, never done anything exciting. You know, the young girl gets married, has children, divorce, uh, gets a job, and you go on through life day by day, just keeping your head above water, as I would put it. So I'm 57 years old, and suddenly I'm starting to live. I mean, really, really, life is becoming a joy to me. Everybody supported me so much when they found out I had won this contest. And they were all so excited to see me leave and get on a big ship, a big ship. It was beautiful. And what I liked about the ship was that the stewards were all British. Nothing like that British accent. And our table steward happened to be, I can't remember what community it was in England, but his mother lived right down the street from Anthony Hopkins. She would often see him taking his daily walks up and down the path. Well, that alone, to me, just being able to see him, I can't imagine what it would have been like to get to talk to him. So, I'll be telling you some of the stories about the things I did in England. They were fun. And like I said, my life began then. And I have traveled, and I can recommend travel to you. If you don't do anything else, make yourself get up, get in the car, fly on a plane, book a cruise on a ship, anything. Enjoy your life, because you don't know how long your life will last. And I've been very fortunate that I've had the good friend to travel with. So, I don't know what this little video will say to you, but it's good for me. I'm enjoying doing the videos. I like telling stories. Some of them are good ones, some of them are sad, and I'm sort of withdrawing from the sad videos because nobody wants to be made to cry. And I would have to cry if I told those stories. So, if you'll just stay with me, I'm going to have some more things to tell. I just finished eating pimento cheese sandwich. I was getting a little bit hungry. I'd forgotten that lunch was 3 hours ago. And so I grabbed a pimento cheese, my own recipe, of course. And one of these days, maybe I'll practice that recipe in the kitchen for you so that you can see how it's made. It doesn't taste like anybody else's pimento cheese. And you may or you may not like it, but my family loves it. And I can eat on it day after day, and it keeps very well. So I'll be showing you the video of in the kitchen. I got the plumbers in and out, and they cleared up my drainage problems. And I just go in the kitchen now, and I turn the water on and watch it run down the drain. Well, that's better than looking out the window and seeing how dark and gloomy it is, wouldn't you say? I'm glad you are with me today, and I want to bring some good stories to you, and I want you to support me. Please subscribe. Thank you.